You are listening to the unabridged reading of Chapter 1 from Her Black Heart, Book 2 of the Dark Amulet series by A.J. Norris. Please be advised that this excerpt contains adult content and language. Copyright 2016. Chapter 1. Julia. Do monsters know they're monsters? Julia asked herself this question a lot. She had done all the right things to show everyone around her that she had remorse for her crimes. She cried in the courtroom, wrote a letter to her best friend's parents, fulfilled her community service sentence, and even stayed on at the senior center after her required hours were completed. Would a monster do this? Or was it an attempt to convince herself she wasn't a monster, that she truly didn't possess a dark heart? She rubbed the center of her chest. Oh, stop it, you're fine. Julia? A tiny voice croaked from behind her. Julia stopped in the center's hallway by the front doors and sighed. All she wanted to do was go home to her dingy apartment and sleep. Will you wait with me? Where's... Julia could never remember the name of the old woman's son. He's late, as usual. Augustina rolled her cloudy eyes, one of the many gestures Julia admired about the blue-haired geriatric. The spunky lady was even known to give some of the other workers the finger behind their backs. Julia smirked at the image. Of course I'll wait with you. Good, you're the only one around here I can stand. Augustina linked their elbows together. If you don't like anybody, why do you come here? To see you and Joe. He has a nice behind, and I like flirting with him. The man in question was 35. Julia snorted. Yeah, okay, but I'm not a good person, you know. Hogwash. You have gumption. She hated when the older woman used words she had to look up in the dictionary. Thanks. Hopefully gumption was a compliment. A car pulled up in front of the building and honked the horn twice. Looks like your ride. Will I see you next Friday? Julia nodded and opened the glass door. Augustina stepped over the threshold. I think it's going to rain. My arthritis is acting up. Can we give you a ride home? Julia stepped outside the building and looked up at the night sky. The dampness in the air weighed heavily in her lungs. Although Augustina's weather report was probably correct, she didn't want the woman to know where she lived. No, I'll be all right. With an old lady waddle, Augustina ambled to the car. Julia matched her wave as the car pulled away. The sun honked again before they drove off. After feeling the first raindrops on her arms, she almost wished she had taken the offer. She looked up again, sighed, then started to walk home. She curled her fingers around the leather cord of her favorite piece of jewelry, her good luck charm. The shiny pendant warmed in her palm. Julia took a quick glance over her shoulder. The evergreen hedges she passed by every Friday night looked the same. Or did they? She thought she heard rustling and quickened her pace. Rain spat in her face. She looked behind her again. The bushes moved. Her lungs squeezed. Julia's scream caught in the back of her throat. Something rushed up behind her. She wheezed when her arms came around her middle and trapped her arms at their sides. A sweaty palm covered her mouth. See that car over there? A man wrenched her head around to show her. Do you see it, Julia? She squeaked and nodded. Julia knew by the putrid breath and the sound of the man's voice her attacker was Bryant, one of Maurice's hired thugs. Her pulse raced. She could feel the blood pumping through the jugular veins in her neck. Good, I need you to get in that car. No way would she get into that car willingly. This was always the part in any horror film where the girl got killed. She lifted her foot and slammed it onto the toe of Bryant's boot. He grunted, but still held her in his grip. That always worked in the movies. Put up a fight, and they leave you alone? Julia brought her foot up again and kicked blindly at his shin. He cursed, and she was free. She bolted, gasping. Breath sawed in and out of her lungs and burned the back of her throat. She swallowed hard and ended up coughing on her saliva. Her feet got in the way of each other, and she tripped. Oh, God, no. His fingertips grazed her arm as her hands went to the pavement to break her fall. Her hip landed on the cement, and the palms of her hands skidded across the coarse sidewalk. She lifted her body up, lunged forward another step, and ran into something rigid and unmoving. Julia looked straight in front of her, and right at another man's chest. He was a mountain, with a terror-inducing stare. She backed up into Bryant. Big mistake, but given the look on the man's face in front of her, the loser behind her seemed like the safer choice if she expected to get out of this situation alive. A cold blade lay across her throat. Well, maybe not. Well, what do you want? Bryant snickered. Don't act stupid. You're too good for that. No, I'm not, she quipped. The other man ran a hand under the collar of her shirt and hooked a finger around the leather cord of the amulet. Her amulet. Maurice wants her dead, he said, like she was nothing but a job to him. The man yanked at the cord. The clasp at the back stretched and seemed to scream as it broke. No, you... Bryant clamped a hand over her mouth again. Her hand automatically came up to her neck. Something warm coated the palm, and the ground tilted. She staggered backward and listed to the side, her head landing on the soggy grass. What had just happened? She didn't remember falling. Footsteps retreated until she could no longer hear them. Thank you, and I hope you've enjoyed this excerpt of Her Black Heart. Please visit www.ajnorrisauthor.com for more information about this book.